All right, so I'm going to show you the easiest way I know to make a handle. Okay, so first I want to start with a coil that's tapered, right? So it's bigger at one end and it's smaller at the other. Now, depending on what you're going to attach it to, will determine like how thick this is, right? You don't want a large voluminous mug to have a tiny little skinny handle on it, right? And when I say skinny, I don't mean thinness this way, right? It's the width of it, like where it's attached. So if you look at this one, right, that there's a width to that which kind of matches that, but this is thin this way, okay? So it's comfortable to hold. So I think I need a little more length out of this, right? All right, so now it's kind of shaped like a carrot. So what I want to do is drop it on one side, just make it flat, right? See how flat that is. And then drop it on this side. I can stretch it out a little bit, just like the slabs, right? You can pull them. So I want to work on this thinness, right? I have some width here, but all right. So now it's starting to, because this is pretty dry stuff here. I'm gonna get some water on here. A little newspaper. All right, so I have basically what I need right now. I'm gonna do some work on this with my fingers now. I just put it on the paper so it doesn't stick to my cement board. So what I'm doing right now is putting pressure on the edges, right? I wanna work on the edges a little bit. And then, which is leaving a nice mark down the center, which I wanna keep. Kind of messed that side up a little. But, all right, so I'm gonna flip it over now. I want to smooth out some of these cracks from stretching it out. It's just like when you're doing the slabs, you get the cracks in there, you gotta get rid of them. I'm gonna go ahead and work that same edge on both sides. See what I can get out of it. So now I'm going to take some water. I have water in my hands, right? I want to smooth that. I want to get rid of these cracks on the side, basically. So now there's now I'm just taking my sponge and smoothing it out because I really don't. It's a little funky. Now what I'm doing now, this is kind of a way to make a strap kind of handle, but it's got a thin spot here that kind of works with this a little bit. I'll take it. So now I've got to work on attachment, right? There's a lot of ways you can do handles. This is just a really simple way to get a handle. Now, the way I really like if you just take a coil and make a coil, it's not a very comfortable handle. It's like one of those pet peeves of mine. I don't like when people do this. You know, that's not what I would consider a good handle for this, right? For one thing, the coil is, you know, skinny, right? There's it doesn't, like, to be able to drink from it is kind of uncomfortable, right? So it's a lot better to flatten it out. Another way I don't like, now you can dress them up and make them better, but if you have a slab and you cut out a rectangle and put that on, then you have the cut edges, right? At least this way with the tapered coil and just dropping it, like I get a much nicer finished edge on the handle itself, right? So and now I'm gonna just shape this a little bit. I'm not gonna use all of this handle. I'm gonna cut it probably right in here somewhere, right? Just looking, because I don't need all that part right there. But if I let it sit like that for a little bit, it'll hold this arc, you know, and it'll be better. Like when I attach it, it won't like flop down. You don't want this clay to be like super wet when you do this. Now there's a lot of other ways to make handles. Again, I'm just showing you this one because I think it'll be good for this particular pot. Since this is your first handle, right? This is the first time I'm showing you it, and I'll show you more later. But for this particular project, just do it this way. Work on being good at this, okay? So now I've got to decide, where am I going to put the handle on this thing? And I'm probably going to put it, I want to look at a place where, you know, as the person drinking from this, you know, I want to look at it like, I want to have the best view, right? If I'm holding it here and this has the best view, right? And I'm not exactly sure where and then also look at the rim, and I look, because there's little variations in it, just because, you know, it's a hand-built rim. So I'm gonna find the place that I want to drink from the most. Me being right-handed, right? I'm looking at this side of my right hand. So wherever I put this, that's where I'm going to be drinking from, right? So, and really like even when I do like a lot of mugs, like I'm looking on every single mug, I'm looking like, where would be the best place to drink from, right? Even if it's not a mug that I intend to keep for myself. I mean, this has a pretty nice rim, like by rolling that inside, you know, made it a nicer place to drink from. So, but I want to look around and kind of, I think I want to go in between one of the tripods, right? I want to line the handle up somewhere in between one of them. I don't want to put it on one of them, you know? Like, I think in between is good, and I'm sort of looking at the area where I have the seam where the cylinder was made, right? Yeah, let's do that. All right, so I've decided I'm going to go here. All right, so I need a knife to cut. So I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to adjust my angle. I want to look and see, because it's a pretty straight wall. I'm going to give myself a little bit of an angle. just for a better attachment. So I angle my knife a little bit. It just gives me a little bit more clay to, like this part right here. You see the bottom part, like this, that part right there, like this gives me a little more to attach to. Now, because I'm gonna cut a little more off this part to get it to go on here. So always, you know, I try to adjust the cut, you know, a few times, and then I'm gonna, you know, stretch this out a little bit as I attach it. So I want to see where's the best place, and I always look at, you know, from the side, from the top, from the back, you know, look around and find the best place to put this. Where's it gonna look the best? Mark it. So now I know where it's going. Got the shape of it, or I cut the piece off, so I want to score it. So if you get a fork and score it. And every time I pick up this handle, like I wanted to pick it up with the intent of it keeping its shape. All right, so don't grab stuff. Slip. Slip this. Now I'm going to attach the top. So I'm angling this slightly down. All right, and I'm gonna put it, that's why I have that extra clay at the bottom. Right, so I'm going to start attaching that. I hold this in place and I use that extra clay that I put on the bottom, that I left on the bottom, to attach down here. Because that part, this part is really, to me, that's the most important part of the handle, is right here, right? That's where you attach to it, right? So that part needs to be really comfortable. So I want enough clay there that I can smooth out and get a nice attachment. Work all the way around. Now I can look at this bottom. I can lift it up a little bit or just put it right where it is. And then I score, slip, and attach this part too. And you can put some pressure on it. Make sure you get a good attachment. Smooth out any rough edges. And use a little bit of water if you have to, like for the final, like cleanup. You need to wait. You know, this part, if this is still too wet, if the mug part is still too wet, then, you know, it's not going to hold its shape. So it's not going to take the pressure that you put it on when you're putting the handle on. So you need to get it dry enough to make it work for you. All right, so I like this sort of profile here a little bit, but I want to give it some more volume in on this part. I don't know, nobody can see that. All right, so I'm gonna hold it like this. I'm gonna just give it a little bit of water, stretch that out just enough. Yeah, that looks better. All right, make sure you have no rough edges. So now I've added more volume to this, so I would be able to pick it up better. So that's how you make and attach a pretty simple handle. There's not a lot of things involved with that. Just, you know, roll a coil that looks like a carrot, flatten it out. Play around with it. You can take things and you can add texture to the handle, right? There's a lot of ways you can make it handle. Okay, definitely take the time to play around with some clay and get the handle you want. Right, make the handle match the mug. But it should, keep in mind craftsmanship things like it should not have any sharp edges, right? Especially even your texture. We talked about that a little bit with the slab. And when I put the texture on it, I smoothed it down some, so it doesn't have any rough edges on it. Like it's got a pretty intense texture in some places, but it's not rough. Okay. Same thing with the handle, like where I attach it, I smooth it out, and I take some time to do that. All right, so that's good enough for that, right? That's a handle. You have any questions?